creative challenge. So one of the things I've done over the years, whenever I can, is teach in schools, because I find working with younger folders incredibly stimulating. I often learn as much from my students as they do from me, because they challenge you, they ask you really good questions that you don't think about. And so having young people to teach, I recommend everyone works with younger people, because they make you a better teacher and they give you new ideas. And one of the things I've often tried to do in school is work related to geometry or mathematics. I'm not particularly expert in maths or geometry really, but I've learnt a reasonable amount. And I think it's so much fun to work with shapes, geometric shapes, because you can use them just on the basis of learning geometry. How many triangles do I need to make a hexagon? Simple questions. But also you can then start to design paper models to represent these shapes and find different ways of using them. One of the things I've come across, which I didn't know existed, were things called Rep-tiles. And it's short for repeating tiles. And I'll try and give you a little, if I can find it, a little bit of background about it. So a Rep-tile is a shape that tessellates, so it joins together, so you can do various things with them. But a Rep-tile in particular is a shape which you can dissect, you can cut up into the same shape, only smaller, and then join them together. So these are probably been described as self-replicating tilings. So I can take one of these and I can join 5 of them to make the same shape, only larger. I'll show you some images if I can remember how to do it. So there's some examples. So you can see a square. Obviously, we can join 4 squares together to make a bigger square, and we can join 4 rectangles. So 2x1 rectangle. We can join 4 of those together. Let me move this a bit. But they're not really very exciting, and they don't, I think origami should be exciting. I think you should stimulate people. So here's a shape, which, what do I call it? There aren't names for these shapes that I can find. So I've come up with, I'll call that one a 1.5 square Rep-tile. It's a snappy title, isn't it? So it's not quite 2 squares. If you imagine 2 squares, and we've cut a quarter of that shape, so it's 1.5 squares. And so up there, number 3, that's an easy shape. So in terms of creating these shapes, there's 2 approaches. You can either just teach people how to make the design, or you can give them the shape or show them the shape and ask them to come up with their own version of it. So number 3 is fairly easy, and if I show you this picture, not the cat, that one. Sorry, I'm messing with my screen here. There we are. So here's a very simple way we can make the basic 1.5 square Rep-tiles. So we fold in half, we fold a corner up to the top edge, and that gives the shape. We turn over and we have this shape which I've been showing you. So it's not a very exciting shape, and you might look at it and think, well, where is the interest in that? But as you can see at the bottom, we can join 5. We can join, I think that's 10, I forget how many they are, but basically you can use them to build the same shape, and you can keep going indefinitely. So for students who are maybe very young, you can use this folding method to create the shape, and then ask them to make as many as they can, either for themselves or as a group, and see if they can create the first of the shapes, or the second, or the third. So you can also use geometry, trigonometry, I think is phrase to look at the angles and the sizes, the lengths of each side. So there's lots of maths involved in even simple shapes. You could also ask students to try and calculate how many are in each of these iterations. So maybe they could work out how many you need for the next shape along. So there's mathematics and trigonometry and geometry all involved in this, and you can incorporate as much of that or as little as you want. So this simple model here, for me, has a problem in that it's got raw edges. So you can appreciate the long edge. Two of the edges are raw. You can just lift the flaps up and separate them. So in terms of handling it and playing with it, it's not a very good shape, really. It's not a very good solution. So what I've started doing is coming up with different ways to create that shape, only slightly more interesting folding techniques. And this also brings other questions. So if you have no limits on how you can create that shape, how do you decide which is the biggest shape you could create from a square? How many of these can be joined together to create different patterns? Can you make a star shape out of them? With most shapes, if you make 6 of them and spin them around, you can make some kind of star shape. So it doesn't have to be about origami. I always think the best way of teaching origami is to teach something else using origami. So the students aren't obsessed with, oh, this is what folding method is this. They have a target, an easy target that they can try and create. So with that in mind, let's do some folding, shall we? Top down, there we are. Right, so we're going to start with a square. And we're going to make a version of this shape. There are endless ways in which you can do this. And personally, I don't think it's important whether it's an original design, whether it's your work or not. Where is my, bear with me, open photos. Just trying to arrange my screen so I can see everything going on at the same time. So professional, this. Right, there we go. So we're going to start with the white side up, please. And we're going to put in 2 diagonals. So I'll assume some of you are not expert folders or new to this, and I'll talk through the kind of folding process that I use. So I always like to fold paper away from myself, because I find if I fold paper towards me, then I can't see the edges, and it's kind of difficult. But if you're folding away, you can see where you're trying to go. So when you're folding corner to corner, you don't need to consider the sides. You just look at the corner. And if it's a square, which I hope it is, then you can just, that's the one location point. In fact, I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see what I'm doing. Okay, open out, turn the paper around, and we're going to repeat fold corner to corner. So I line up the corners, and then I use one hand to hold the paper, and I generally go back down to the center and go both ways. So I always like to hold the paper, because if you line it up and take your hands off, the paper will move. It has its own kind of ideas about where to go. So when it's lined up, always hold it while you crease it. Some people use folding tools. I've got these, which I get from a lovely man called Hans-Werner Gut in Germany. He's retired, and he makes these in a local workshop, and these are great for flattening creases. Don't always need them, but I just think it's, I used to hate them, but now I love them, particularly when they're made of wood. Okay, open out, turn the paper so we have a side towards us, and we're going to fold in half both ways. side to side. So same process, I'm sliding it backwards and forwards, making smaller and smaller steps. Then when it's lined up, I go to the middle and go out, and then I reinforce it. Open out. Apologies if you're finding this incredibly simple and it's not really exciting you, but hopefully it'll get a little more difficult, a little more challenging. Right, now we're going to make a quarter mark on each of the corners. So we fold to the center and we're just going to make a pinch. That's all you need to do, just a little pinch. Hopefully you can see that there. The shadow's not very good here, but there's a pinch. We're going to do that 3 more times. So fold to the center, make a pinch. We could make a crease, but we only need a pinch, so it makes sense to me to just make 4 pinches, so maybe you can see them better on that side. Okay, and we're going to fold one of the sides in to meet that pinch. So we're folding in, what is it? 1/8, isn't it? 1/8. Everybody happy so far? I'm assuming so. Then we're going to fold in both corners here. We've actually got a crease. You see the little crease there? We're going to use that to make that into a valley crease to fold the corners in. At both ends. This is now I've got 2 layers, so I can usefully use this tool to flatten. Okay, turn the paper around 90 degrees clockwise, so the coloured side is on your left. And we're going to fold the bottom edge also into the quarter crease. The quarter crease is there. It's not very easy to see. Let me got a working pen, it might be good. Let me just show you where those are. Okay, so we're going to fold into the quarter crease. And we check at this end to make sure the edges are lined up. Nice and simple. Turn the paper around all the way, and we're going to repeat on this side. Get the nearest edge to the quarter pinch. This one we're going to open again. And then we're going to turn around to this side now. So the folded over corner is top right now. And we're going to do this side. We're going to fold that into the quarter pinch. Okay, then turn it round so the white edge is away from you. Looks a bit like an envelope. I suppose lots of these simple designs could be envelopes of some kind. So we have the original halfway crease here, and we're going to put that crease in, folding over like so. And now we're going to push this corner in. We're going to do the wonderful inside reverse fold. Durchfalte nach innen. Or pli renversé antérieur. So what we're going to do is to literally push in that corner. We've got the creases there and there. I'm going to push the corner in. Pinch along those creases, and we're going to make a valley fold in the middle so that we can flatten it down. And there's a lot of layers, so give it a good squash. So I'll show you again what we've done there. We've this corner here, pushed it inside, and you can see the shape starting to emerge now. So then we turn it round, and we're going to fold this one up. We've already got the crease, so we're going to tuck it inside. So we've got a little pocket here for that side, and we've got a little pocket there for that side. So it doesn't matter which goes in first. Give it a good, delicate, careful flattening. And there we have the shape. So it's the same on both sides, and each of the sides are smooth. So I don't know if it's just an origami nicety, but I think having smooth edges is much better than having the folded edges. So, for instance, here we've got folded edges, and they don't seem finished somehow. So that was, I think that was the first variation I came up with to create this shape. So you'll appreciate the shape is not original, it's not unique, it's not difficult to create. So that the fun is in making a folding sequence to create that shape where it's kind of locked together. We say locked, where the layers are trapped. And it feels kind of nice. And that's one way of creating this shape. So I'm now going to show you another way. And there are endless different ways to do this. So I'm not particularly trying to teach you this method. Colour's not brilliant. Let me get a brown or something. It's better. Putting green on green is probably not a good idea. So this time we're going to take a different approach. We're going to turn over and first of all put in 2 diagonals. Yeah, I think the theme of originality is something that kind of it runs throughout origami, that people are obsessed with, is this my design? Have I created this? And it's a difficult thing, because when you're new to origami and you're creating something, particularly a simple design, it's very, very unlikely that you will be the first one to discover this design. Chances are there's someone somewhere over the past 60 years has done it before you. And sometimes new folders get very upset. They say, that's my design, I did it. And someone says, well, yes, but he did it and she did it many years ago. So I think wherever we can, we need to stop worrying about whether somebody else has done the same idea. It's inevitable with a simple model that other people will have done it. But for me, it's a good thing when somebody sends me a model saying, look, I've created this, it's the same as yours. Then I think, great, that means you have a brain like mine, you have a mind that thinks the same way. And that brings us together. It doesn't make us enemies because you've done the same thing. So with these particular shapes, don't worry about creating an original sequence, just worry about finding a solution to the problem. Right, open out. Sorry, I do tend to talk a bit. We're going to fold 3 corners to the center. This is a good test of your folding, really, when you're doing corners to the center, to see if the last one comes in and all the white is hidden. But we're not going to do the last one, so we don't have to worry. So we have a shape bit like an envelope again, and we're going to take the left flap and open it out. Okay, let me just check the chat just to make sure there's no complaints. Nope, no complaints yet. Fantastic. So in fact, we're going to open up this flap as well. So we had 3 flaps and we're opening up the left and the nearest flap. Now we're going to fold up. We're going to fold up halfway along there. We've got various locations. We're going to fold this corner to this point, and we're going to fold the end of this crease to this point. So you've got 2 places you can look. That's one, and that's the other. So you probably can't see very well, which is a shame. So that is one location. We're taking this point here to that point. Make sure that this corner is on the vertical crease and give it a good welly. Then we're going to refold on the vertical flap on the left, pull that back over, and that's meeting the center. It's always nice when things line up when they meet. It shows you that you're probably doing it right. Not always, but probably. Okay, so we're going to turn it round so that it's this way, with a white edge towards you and a white edge on the left-hand side. And we're going to fold in this white edge to meet the coloured edge. So slowly we're making all the white disappear. Then we're going to rotate anti-clockwise. So we've got the white edge towards us, and we're going to also fold that one in to the edge. So hopefully the white is all hidden, invisible. Okay, then we're going to fold this corner, this right angle corner, we're going to fold that in. Actually, before we do that, let's open out, then fold that corner in. Okay, we're now going to fold this over, but as we do so, we're going to make a little reverse fold here. So we've got a valley fold going all the way along the edge there, and it goes through the white layer and the coloured layer. We want to make the crease on the coloured layer a mountain fold, because we're going to lift that up and fold it inside, like so. So I'll open out, show you again. So most of it is just folding a nice simple valley, but here we're lifting up the coloured edge and we're pushing it inside. So we're reversing this crease, which is a mountain, we're changing it to a valley. And this is a fabulous way. I'd use it in a lot of designs for creating pockets, basically. You have flaps and you have pockets, and you'll see what happens almost immediately here. Turn the paper round. So the long straight edge is on the right, and we're going to fold in half. And you can see our shapes there. And then we're going to lock things into place. So this flap is going to go into that pocket there. And this flap is going to go into that little pocket there. So I'm basically lifting the layers up and sliding them into each other. And this flap here will go into that little pocket there. And hopefully, a bit of shuffling, everything will line up. And again, it's locked. We use this word locked. It's trapped is a better word, because it's not really locked. We can undo it easily. So we've got nice smooth edges, and also because it's you know, we could go back to the simple version. You fold in half, go fold in half. That's the same shape, but this is kind of not satisfying, and when you're trying to arrange them, it's no good really. So this shape is the same on both sides, and it feels a bit more solid. Now you'll notice that these are not quite the same, because we used completely different folding methods for making the two of them. So those edges are not quite as long as each other. So you might say that that first method was a more efficient, because it creates a larger surface area. But then you might also decide that this is more interesting, and maybe it locks together slightly better. So there are different ways you can assess the model. If you're really keen, you'll notice that there are creases on here, and there's a great crease down there, a crease there. So you might want to work out a method of folding it so that there was no crease there. It will add slightly to the complexity, but you will have a nice smoother finish. And the idea is to get your students to fold lots of these, and then moment bitter. So then to create the shapes. So you can start by making 5. And what's also interesting is that they have to be a certain way up in order to make the first shape on the bottom there, first shape on the bottom left. If one of these is turned over the other way, then you can't make that shape. So it's also a puzzle, in that you can give the students 5 of that. You can make 5 of these, throw them on the table and say, right, make that shape. And if you make sure that these are not the way up they should be, then the students also have to investigate, well, does it need to be that way or that way? And it makes a much more interesting challenge. Obviously, you don't show them the image with the solution. You ask them to work out the solution for themselves. And I think it's reasonable to expect a student to make 5 of these, even if it's only a simple version. If you have a group, then they can work as a group and maybe aim to make the more complicated solutions. It could almost be a competition to see who can make the largest shape. So let me have a quick drink of water. So let's have a look at this again. So 1 and 2, basically they are reptiles, but I don't use them because they're just not very interesting. Number 3 is the easiest one, and here next to it are some other shapes you can make. These don't, they're not modular, they don't fasten into each other, but with a bit of glue you can make shapes. And it's interesting to see, to ask the students, can they make a plain tessellation? So clearly this second shape down, in fact all these shapes here will tessellate. You can just make a bigger pattern, cover a wall with them. So that's a good fun. So let's have a look at number 4 is a triangle, and that's fairly easy. Not very exciting, you might argue, but there's so many ways to make triangles. You can see below number 4, there's 4 triangles tessellated. This one, what did I call it? I think I call it a half triangle. A half hexagon, I called it, because you can look at it as a triangle with the top half missing, or a hexagon cut in half. So I call it a half hex. So you can see that again we need 5 of them to make a larger version. And my screen's not showing everything, and yes it is. So we'll have a look at number 5 next. And I thought for a change we could use a sheet of A4, because squares are all well and good, and most people can make squares from rectangles, but we also have a fair amount of A4 rectangles lying around. So this is how to make that shape with a rectangle. We start by folding in half both ways. And I think this will work with any rectangle, really, or most rectangles, I should say. So we fold in half both ways. We're now going to fold the lower edge to the center. Actually, what I'll quickly show you is the basic technique we use. Some scrap paper. So if we're trying to make a 60-degree crease from a square, all we need is a crease going halfway along. And if we start at this corner and fold the edge, we fold the lower right corner to the crease, and we start the crease at the top left corner. Then that creates an angle of 60 degrees here. So that's a very simple technique. In fact, it's probably the only technique, I think, for creating that angle. And there's lots of different ways we can use this, and we're going to use it on this. So if you imagine we had a square here, we have the halfway crease. So we're going to say, yes, imagine it's like that. This is the crease. So if we fold from here and we make the corner lie along that crease, then we've done exactly the same as this with a square. You can see, you can imagine this would be a square here. It doesn't matter about the rest of the paper because we're using the technique to create 60 degrees here, which is nice. Then we're going to do the same on this side. We're going to start at the end of the halfway crease, start our fold there, And I sort of get it loosely there, and then I line up the other end, because you've got to have both points lined up or it's not 60 degrees. And then with it still sort of roughly curved, I line them up and then finally put the crease in. So this angle here is 60 degrees. And because that's a right angle there, this one here is 30 degrees. So you can do all kinds of geometrical illustrations without using a compass and a ruler, using paper. Okay. So keep that right one folded in, and we're going to fold along this, excuse my pointer, we're going to fold along this inside edge. And because this is 30 degrees and that's 60, if we fold along here, then this edge should meet that edge, like so. But all we want is to fold over there a little bit. We don't need the crease right to the end. We're trying to make that part of the crease. So we fold along there, pinch here, and that is our reference point here. And now we're going to open up and we're going to make a fold which goes through that point. So as you fold the paper over, you should be able to see two creases, and where they meet is the reference that we need. So we've made a 60 here, we've made another 60 there. We've created a 30-degree crease for only in this point, because that's the only point we need. So you could put the whole crease in if you want, but then on the model you get a crease here which you might not want. Maybe it's simplest in the first instance to put all the creases in everywhere fully, and then later on you can remove some. I guess I'm too much of a snob to put little bits of creases in. Anyway, we've now put a crease which passes through there. Good firm crease. Open out. So this is our new crease. I'm going to make it stronger because that's the important one. This crease was simply a reference to create that point. We don't need that crease anymore. Now we fold in left side and right side. And we're going to fold up along that recent crease there. So we're folding it along this crease, which you can't see, but you can see from this side. You can pinch it through. That's that end all sorted. We're now going to fold in half on the original halfway crease. So it looks like the sun's come out, so it's got very bright, I'm afraid. Maybe I'll just pull 2 seconds, pull the blind down a little. That's better. Don't expect sunshine today. Right, now we're going to use these edges as a guide to put the same angle onto this top edge. So we're going to fold the paper over. In fact, let's turn it round. Fold it nice and tightly over that edge. So it should come exactly to the corner. And the same on this side, fold over an existing edge. So you can see we have almost a triangle, except with a bit missing. Then open those out. And put it like this, and we're going to also use this edge to put another crease. So we're going to fold this flat over that edge. Make sure you pull it nice and tight. So we put a crease along there, a crease along there, and a crease along here. I'll put, by the way, before I forget, I'll put these diagrams on the Folding Didactics website for you to reference and use if you want. So we've made 3 creases. Now we're going to turn back to this way, open out that flap, and you can see 3 creases we made. We're going to start by folding down the top crease there. And now we're going to pass the crease through. You see you've got the crease there. It's on this layer. It isn't on this layer. So you might want to just turn over. You can see the crease. We're just going to pinch it through. So it's going through this extra layer. You can really just fold it in, and it also lines up with an existing crease. That's another fabulous thing about 60 degrees, is creases line up with each other. Let me draw all these in so you can see them. So we're going like that. Open out. And now we're going to rearrange these creases here. And we're going to start by making this short crease here a valley fold. So it's currently a mountain. We're going to swap it, make it a valley. And at the same time, we're going to push in on the left. And it should flatten nicely, like so. So in terms of origami, we've got valley fold, mountain fold. This is going over there, and we're pushing in here. And we do the same on the other side. So we've got a mountain fold here, which we have to convert to a valley. And at the same time, push that side in. So in effect, we've sort of reversed or sunk that top point in. It doesn't matter which is on top, really. And then to finish, all we're going to do is to tuck this flap into this pocket that we've created. So we've got a little pockety thing there, and we're going to fold in half, tuck that inside there, and it should fold up nice and neatly. And that gives us shape number 5. And it's fun also to let the students work out the angles. So we've got 60 there, 60 there. So we can work out this. We can put a crease there. So we know that's 90. That must be 30 because the angles add up to 180. So if that's 30, that's 90. So this angle here is 120. And it's a nice, practical, simple way of studying equilateral geometry. Let me see what else we have. So let me share this. Excuse me. PNG. Drag it on there. There we are. So this is a different way for making the same shape from a square. So we use that method of creating 60 degrees to get the angle. Then we fold to the center point. It's a similar kind of method to the A4 one I've just shown you. This one's slightly flimsier because the only thing that's holding it together is quite a thin flap here. But there is remove, yes. This is one which I'm not really going to have time to teach you, I don't think, so I shall just show it you. Oops. Yeah. So this is quite a nice method for making the similar kind of shape. A little bit more accuracy required because you're folding edges to the bottom corner, and it's always difficult to get sharp points, I find, when you're doing this. And there's a little semi-tricky open and squash thing there, but you get the same shape. And there's remove, yes, remove, yes. There's yet another one. So yeah, what I did for this one, I found this simple shape was a little bit flimsy, and it tended to open out a little bit. So I found a nice simple way of putting a second sheet underneath the first sheet and using step 11 as a template to basically double the thickness of the whole model and lock it all together. So this type of thing really appeals to me, that just ways of using a model as a template to make a stronger template. Because if you wanted, you could make these in advance for your students, and you could simply throw them on the table and say, what can you do with this? What can you discover? And see if they can find out what a reptile does simply by experimenting, just moving the shapes around. So I found it a very useful way of teaching about reptiles and about 60-degree geometry. And you can make them as simple as you want, really. You know, as I say, even to the extent where you fold them for your students rather than they fold them. If you have an origami class, then I would probably start by showing them a simple shape and saying, create it. How do you make it? So, yep, just deleted the file I wanted. But anyway, so I'm starting to ramble a bit here, so I think I'll open the door for any questions, and that will be the presentation for you. I apologise, I'm a bit bleary-eyed because I had a concert last night with my rock band, and we were up very late on stage, so my brain's not brilliant at the moment. So please unmute and ask any questions if you have any. Well, it's always nice when everything's been explained so clearly that there's not one single question.
Yes, I have one question.
Okay.
How did you find the shape? How did you get the idea to make the reptile?
I think I was searching for, I do a lot of Google image searches, and I keep typing in strange combinations of words. And when I was working on 60-degree geometry, I think I searched for 60-degree tessellation, and a very strange image came up, which I followed. If you go on Wikipedia, and in fact, I have the link here somewhere, and I found a link to reptiles. Here we are. Copy. I'll put it in the chat window for you. And it just struck me as being exactly what I wanted, a simple way to make the geometry more interesting. Because you can talk all day about how many degrees make up inside of a triangle, and you can think about these things in your head, but when you have a piece of paper in your hand and you can do this kind of thing and actually write angles on it, I think it really reinforces the whole idea of geometry. Because when I learnt at school, we had rulers and compasses and protractors, and I wasn't very good, and I found it very difficult. But doing it with paper is much easier, I think.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It's much easier. Mm-hmm.
Because learning should be fun, even if it's a complex subject and it's an academic subject, which you probably don't use in your everyday life. It should still be fun to learn it. Mm-hmm. Same with playing an instrument. You shouldn't have to sit and learn scales all the time. You should be able to make noises with it. Just have fun and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing which I didn't mention is you can do with this is to look at color combinations. So you can ask your students to each make 3 of a different color, and then find out how you can make how many colors you need to make the shape, and can you work out how many colors you'll need for a larger shape. So color combinations is a whole different, nothing to do with maths, but something else you can do. And when they're finished, the students can stick them on a wall and make a mural montage, just a abstract pattern.